just sat there
my
and
wife's
see
in the
you
audience. And I'll tell you why. Just before I came out, she said, make sure that you mention our very special memory of Empire, of course, was the birth of our first son, Nathan. And Nathan Elias Hamill was born in Avenue Clinic in London while we were making Empire Strikes Back. So it has a special resonance for us. He was followed by his brother Griffin Tobias and his sister Chelsea Elizabeth. And it's shocking, you know, we've been married 31 years. Hollywood is like a century. But she said to me just before I went out, she said, mention that Nathan's at a booth here, and I know it's 5:30. Is it 5:36? Because I'm telling you, it was something I wanted to mention, and of course I'm overwhelmed by this response. I mean, you forget how intense. I mean, I know they're fans, but you know, I think you guys are UPFs, the ultra passionate fans. I was just imagining how this might go, and I said, oh, I'm going to do everything I can to try and make you as happy as you've made us over the years, and not go into the same old repetitious stories from, because a lot of times you talk to journalists, they don't care like you care. So you tend to fall into stories you told over and over again, and I thought, you know, I bet if I sat down with you guys, you'd probably all beat me in a trivia contest. Because I haven't had to learn. You know, I was really totally devoted to this project. Can you imagine? Because I remember now, I got the part from a screen test that was only 10 pages long, and I didn't get to read the script until they said, we want you to play the part. So can you imagine sitting down and reading the screenplay to what was then called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Wills, Saga number 1, The Star Wars. And I had a little beachfront apartment in Malibu from all my TV money that I'd saved up over the years, and I was single, and I sat down all by myself, and I opened that first page. I said, boy, I gotta work on this title. That's a little hard to remember. And then I started reading the script, and I just could not believe my eyes. I mean, I had been a fan all my life. I mean, I was one of 7 children. I have an older brother, 2 older sisters, and there's me, 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. And, you know, my father was in the Navy. We moved coast to coast to coast to coast, and I eventually went to the last 2 years of high school in Japan. But maybe it was because I needed attention, being the middle child, but I always loved, the first thing I remember loving were the comic strips that would come to my doorstep every day. I think I learned to read from a lot of the silent strips like Little King or Henry, or simple strips like Nancy, hey, you, go. But I loved that, and I loved to draw. I thought I wanted to be an artist. I idolized Charles Schultz. I became a big Peanuts fan. But then, of course, I loved the Universal horror films that were, of course, banned in my house. You know, you can't watch this stuff. That makes you want to watch it even more. And I loved Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. That movie used to make me cry because I was afraid of the monster, but they were so mean to him, you know. Dwight Fry was torturing him. It's really, those were the movies that really moved me. The Wolfman, and of course Lugosi as Dracula, and I just was mad for all this stuff. And then I went into Famous Monsters and Building the Kits, and you know, King Kong is probably still my all-time favorite movie. And the issue that told you how they did stop frame animation was just fascinating to me. You know, I mean, I sort of wanted to let it be magic, and yet I couldn't stop reading how it was really done. I have, you know, reservations about making of documentaries because I like it to be magic. You know, when you see how it's done, it's like greatest secrets the magicians reveal. You really want to know them when you see how it's done. It's kind of disappointing. But So I was really like you. I was a great fan. I loved Ray Harryhausen and Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. My mom was a huge Alec Guinness fan, and because my dad was in the Navy, they'd first run films on the big screen. And she took me to see The Lady Killers, and she took me to see The Lavender Hill Mob. She took me to see The Horse's Mouth, and she loved Alec Guinness. So you can imagine, when I found out that Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness were going to be in the movie, I mean, I was beside myself. I remember reading the script and thinking, oh, darn, I'm not in any scene with Peter Cushing.
When you're talking about Alec Guinness, did he give you any advice? Or was it just about being in his presence?
Well, Alec Guinness, I mean, I have to tell you, would not disappoint you in any way. A lot of times you meet actors or comedians or rock and roll, anybody that is famous, and you can be disappointed that they're not the way you perceive them to be. But what's that? Oh, well, what I was going to tell you, though, is that Alec, these are really soft.
Afros out there as well. So,
but I was so terrified to meet Alec Guinness. I was so scared, and he asked to have lunch with me before we flew to London. I spent about a week to 10 days doing costume fittings and going out to the sets and getting some of the preliminary work done. And they said, well, you have a lunch on Thursday or whatever day it was with Sir Alec. And I couldn't believe it, you know. I thought, I don't have a posse, I didn't have a personal assistant, I'm just going to meet the guy. And, at the predetermined time, I went to a restaurant in London and met him. And I'm telling you, it was like, I thought if I open my mouth, I'm going to cry like a little girl. I mean, I couldn't breathe. And I have to tell you, I kept calling him Sir Alec, and he sort of, I don't know if it was at that particular lunch or he just finally got fed up with it, but at one point he sort of tapped my face twice lovingly, and the third time a little too hard for comfort.